Hello, my loves. Welcome to the Sunday Reset. These are weekly reflections on the tools that have helped me heal and come back to wholeness as I build my six-figure business, as I built my six-figure business, and as I'm continuing to grow into my seven-figure empire. It's a way for us to, when we approach our business as this like vehicle for healing, then we can make an impact and help others without losing ourselves in the process and still feel like whole and complete. And we get to do work that feels like us, but there's usually a lot of healing that has to be done to get to this point. And it's this ongoing journey too. I don't ever want to pretend like I'm arrived and everything's done. So the topic, the tool I want to talk to you guys about today is tapping. And I'm trying to decide which angle I want to go into. I will start with on Mean Girls. Of course, that's where you thought I was going, right? On Mean Girls, the character that I resonate with the most is when they're having that little impromptu workshop in the gym. And there's that girl who comes on the stage and she's like, I wish I could take the rainbows and mix them with butterflies. And she's just like crying and reading her journal entry, whatever that is. And then that guy's like, she doesn't even go here. And they're like, wait, do you go here? And she's like, no, I just have a lot of feelings. I was like, yeah, that's me. I resonate with this. And I also, just another fun fact, anytime I've had like an astrology birth chart reading done, I think I've done it like two or three different times. And the funny thing is, each time I've done it, it's been at least two, maybe three times. The astrologer has gotten on the call with me and they've already looked at my chart, they looked at my stuff, and one of the first things they do is they'll look at me and they're like, "Do you have a lot of feelings?" Like they asked me that because there's something within all my planets and configurations that leads them to believe this girl has a lot of feelings, which is so funny that multiple different people have done that. And I don't know if it's astrological or if it's because of my like ADHD and like sensory processing disorder, like who knows. But the bottom line is I have a lot of feelings. And there was a time when I didn't know what to do with them. When I say I have a lot of feelings, it's like I'm sometimes they're good and it's like wonderful. Like I have this vivid memory of hearing this one Taylor Swift song that had to do with like the Hunger Games. It was from the Hunger Games soundtrack or something, and it was like the Safe and Sound. And listening to that song, and I would just start crying. And then I was driving back from like my hometown. I was driving back to college, and I had just discovered the song. I think it was like coming back from Christmas break. And I just remember driving and listening to that song and like crying, and like I'll cry in books that I read. Like there's just a lot of feelings. And so it's like easily crying, but then it's also I don't know. Yeah, it just feels like I have a lot of like my emotional reaction can feel like disproportionate to things. Or it used to in a lot bigger of ways, but yeah, I just have a lot of feelings. And I have exciting feelings too. Like I get so excited and I feel like I bring a lot of joy and energy. One of my friends, this is just another example of me. Like when I say I have a lot of feelings, I want to just give you guys some examples that maybe you relate to. Please let me know if you do. So I'm not just like all alone out here. But one of my friends, we weren't co-living, but we hung out pretty much every day for about 2 months, maybe it was almost 3 months, where we hung out like most of the time, and we would like go on walks regularly, and we just saw a lot of each other, and we hadn't like that was kind of the first time we were hanging out in that way. And by the towards the end of that time, my friend was saying something. He's like, do you think that you um let me rephrase. I think that I'm very even keeled person. How do you think that you are? And I was like, I know, I'm an emotional roller coaster. Just say it. and and he's like, okay, as long as you're aware. Like I've got my ups, I've got my downs. And that was over 2 years ago now. So even since then, it's like I think I've leaned heavily in the past, I've leaned more on friends through my emotions. And now it's like I've really learned to hold a lot of my own emotions even more, which is so fun. And my friends can hold them, which is great. But all of that to say, I have a lot of feelings. I'm sure you guys have a lot of feelings too. I used to not know what to do with them. I would numb them with alcohol, with overachieving, with all the things. And now I know how to just process them. It's this wild thing that I know how to do that most of us are not taught how to do is process emotions. And it's going to sound so elementary, but I think most of us are running around scared of our own emotions. Like I'm pretty sure most of you are that we're afraid anytime we go, like I go on a fear, like investigating fear with my clients, we'll get to a point where I'm like, okay, but like, what are you actually scared of? Okay, but what then? And it really comes down to I'm afraid of how I'll feel. I'm afraid of my own feelings, right? It's like, I'm not really afraid of people judging me. I'm afraid of what that will feel like to be an outcast. I'm afraid of the shame I'll feel as a result of that. I'm not really afraid of failing. I'm afraid of being embarrassed that other people see me fail. And it always comes back to, or like, I'm not afraid of being rejected in and of itself. I'm afraid of then feeling unworthy and like a loser because of it. So at the end of the day, it's like we're afraid of our own feelings. And there's a definition I love. I'm sure I've said this before, a definition of confidence. And it's confidence is when you know you can handle the emotional outcome of any situation. Now think about that. You know you can handle the emotional outcome of any situation. How does that land? That's what tapping has given me. Not just tapping by itself, but tapping is one of my go-to tools in my arsenal for processing emotions. And so I'm going to share a little bit about it. I feel like I can't do it all justice because it's a whole topic, and it's something, if you guys are interested in learning more about this, let me know on here so I can make more resources. I can maybe make some guides on how I do it. This is sort of just an intro to like what it is. So tapping, another word for it is emotional freedom technique, or EFT. So maybe you've heard it by that name. And what it is, my understanding is, there's in Chinese medicine, they have acupuncture where they put the needles into those different meridian points. So tapping is using similar meridian points, but instead of puncturing them with needles, we're just putting pressure on them, right? So it's acupressure instead of acupuncture. And so it's just, you've probably maybe seen people do this before. Maybe you've done it yourself, or you're just like tapping and you kind of cycle through different meridian points, and different practitioners have different ways of doing this. This is the way I went through Gala Darling's tapping training, and so certified through that. And that's what I like to do, is her method. And so you're just kind of cycling through these meridian points, tapping, just using two index fingers, and then you're repeating these mantras, not even mantras. It's like a call and response kind of a thing. Like the person leading the tap is usually saying something and then you're repeating. Or if you're doing it yourself, you're kind of going through a process, which is what I love to do now, is go through my own process. So you're speaking things out loud. Sometimes you're repeating, sometimes you're doing your own ad lib, and you're also breathing deeply. Like this is something else I'm always doing when I'm doing this with my clients. It's like, and now take a deep breath. Right. And so there's a lot that's happening. And what it does for me and what I've seen it do for my clients at the very baseline is it just helps process emotions and like change your state. And I've done this with clients where I see them kind of in a gloomy gust, like they're coming on and they're like really frustrated. And I'm like, we're not going to get anything done. Like we're just going to be circling around this low level state if we stay here. And so let's do a tapping process to get them moving through and feeling better and like feeling more in their power. And so I'll move them through a tapping process. And usually it's just like a quick state change kind of a process where we go from, one feeling, maybe they're feeling frustrated, to even just neutrality. So we kind of have, or we just decrease the frustration, which then increases the neutrality. So you can do it for any sort of emotional processing. I first started doing it for panic attacks and more things on the anxiety spectrum. And it honestly makes me feel like I've taken a sedative. When I would have a panic attack, which I haven't had one in a very long time, which is interesting. I'm just realizing that it's been a long time. Cool. When I would have panic attacks, I would do the tapping, and it would literally feel like I'd taken a benzo or something. And I was like, this is wild. It's so cool. I also use it when I'm in my manifestation process. I have it, there's like several phases. And so one of the phases is like having to look at your doubts and limiting ideas and stories and clearing those. And sometimes when I'm looking at them and working on clearing them, I cannot do it just in my mind. And there's just like heavy things. Like maybe there's shame, or there's like stuff around money can feel heavy. And I want to process that. And again, it's an emotion, but it's an emotion kind of locked into a limiting belief that's blocking my manifestations. And so then I'm going to do a tapping to kind of process that. So those are two of the main ways that I do it, is for just like state change of any kind, mostly like anxiety and calming anxiety. And then, yeah, kind of releasing heaviness as I'm going through my manifestation process. But it's powerful for any sort of state change. And even there's times, I'm gonna just take a sip because there's times I'm using it to do really deep healing too. Because there's this one practitioner I love, Sonia Sophia, and I'll link her stuff below. She has these in-depth tapping videos that are like an hour long. Okay, so this is the kind of thing where I'm like, clear my evening, get a box of tissues, and sit down with this tapping video. And I'm going to process some shit. I'm going to release some trauma. Like, things are going to be very different afterwards. I don't do this too often. I do it maybe once a month, to really just get some big stuff out. But whenever I do it, I'm like, oh my God. Like, I'm usually ending up in like these ugly cries, like, ugh, like releasing shit. I'm like, where even was that? How, what happened? It's where a lot of things come up. So I do recommend it. It is a great process, because she calls it like emotional hygiene, and I get it. It really is. It's like a deep clean of whatever's happening in there. So I do the deep clean. And the thing is, I don't like plan it out. There's just a time when I feel something rising up, and I'm like, I'm gonna need to clear my schedule tonight, and something needs to come out. I don't know what it is yet, but I gotta feel it. So Sonia Sophia's taps, I'll link those. Like I said, I like to do it in my manifestation process to clear limiting beliefs. And that's something now, because I have done like certifications, and I've become a practitioner of it myself. And really just because I've done it so much, that I will do it on myself, and it's really powerful. Sometimes it's almost like I'm journaling out loud by tapping, and that's helpful. And then sometimes I'll also do it when I am doing my manifestation playlist, and I have sort of a meditation. I have different songs I put on that I meditate to, and sometimes I'm locking in the state of that, and I'll tap while I'm doing it. That's just like a new fun thing that I do sometimes. And then for beginners, if you're just starting out, the best way to go about this, which is why I'm like, why would I even make a resource? Because Brad Yates does it everything. But I think the way I do it, so Brad Yates does it for like quick state changes. So his are really good for that. And then Sonia Sophia does it for like deep, dramatic healing. But I do it for like clearing shit intentionally for manifestation. So I do kind of have a different angle. If you guys are interested in that angle, let me know. I can make some stuff. But have I taken a breath since I started? I don't know. I have a client call soon, so I'm trying to record this before. But yes, Brad Yates, he has been tapping on YouTube literally since 2008. It is hilarious when you look back at his old school videos. So what I tell my clients is, I'm like, okay, pretend YouTube is a Google search bar, and then type in Brad Yates first, and then just whatever emotion you're feeling or whatever situation you're dealing with, I guarantee you, he has made a tapping video on it. And his videos are usually like less than 10 minutes. So those are nice to do quickly. And unlike Sonia Sophia, where it's like block out your evening, they're both helpful, but they just kind of have different use case scenarios. So yes, tapping. Man, I cannot recommend this enough. I don't know why I haven't even talked about it on here yet. It's something I do and I practice with my clients, and I just think everyone should have their own tapping practice. I'm gonna say this with everything though, because all the things I've learned and done, like they are all so healing, and that's why I'm sharing them. Is because they've made a big impact on my life, like big impact. Like I'm not just sharing silly things that help me one off. I'm sharing, and I will share those too, but I'm really sharing things that are like, this changed me. So be paying attention to these Sunday resets, because this is where I'm laying out the good stuff. I'm even directing my clients here, guys. Like I'm putting such good stuff in here that like I'll have clients with something and I'm like, go watch the forgiveness one. Like go do that. Like, and I'll send it to them. So like these are resources I'm creating and you get to have them for free at this moment, that I'm sharing with my clients to like actually use, because that's like, that's what I'm putting into this. So that's it. Sunday reset. Let me know if you've tapped before, what your experiences have been with tapping. Yeah, and if you're interested in learning more about how I tap and any of that. So sending you guys love and see you next time.